Okay. It's I have 2 o'clock, Ryan, do you?
I do.
Okay, I call this meeting to order at 2 o'clock. Madam Clerk, can you please read the roll?
Custer,
Here.
Marcy,
Here.
Osmond,
Yes.
Jerry Donovan,
He's muted.
Meridian is excused,
Mhm.
Adams,
Here.
and Richard Donovan.
Here.
Jerry Donovan,
He's just on mute.
Okay.
He's here. He's saying he's here. He's just on mute.
Got it.
Got it? Okay. Are there any additions to today's agenda? If not, can I call for a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Let's move on now to public comments. At this time, we welcome any members of the public to comment, limited to today's agenda topic, and keeping your comments to under 3 minutes. Anyone? Okay. If there are no public comments, let's now move on to reviewing the engineering proposals. And I have to say right off the bat that including everyone's ranking in the packet was, the thought was to increase transparency to the public, but it also increased the size of the packet exponentially. So moving on, I think Marcia Casper's weighted ranking system helped us, but Marcia herself reminded us that it is only a tool. So I guess I would just ask if any committee members would rank firms differently than the results of Marcia's tabulation, or if there is any discussion at this time.
Aaron, could you please pull up the ranking sheet? Thank you. Holly, is that okay? Sorry, didn't mean to.
That's great.
Yeah, and again, Holly, the goal today is simply to 2 finalists to be the subject of reference checks and interviews at our next meeting, correct?
Yes, thank you, Richard, for stating that.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just a comment to that point. You and I discussed earlier today that it may be the best interest of the committee to rank all 4 firms, 1, 2, 3, and 4, just in case your one of your top 2 picks drops out for any reason at all. You have somebody to move up into the next slot.
Yes, I think that's a great point. So if there's no more discussion and we've hashed out all of the engineering firms, I would like to move to rank the following firms. And as Ryan suggested, I'm going to rank all 4 in case anybody drops out. So first would be C2AE, number 2 would be Whiteman, number 3 would be Moore Brugging, and 4 would be Beckett Rader. Can I get a second?
I'll happily second that.
Okay, thank you. Can we call for a vote at this time?
Or discussion, could we?
Or discussion? Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, this is Marcia. I just wanted to point something. It looked like, and I don't know if it's important or not, but the summary that you sent out, the PDF,
Yep.
it looks like it cut off criteria 1 and 2. I mean, it's just not showing. So if this is part of the documentation.
Oh, it did cut it off, yeah.
Okay, we'll get that corrected to make sure it's included in the packet that goes on record.
Okay, thank you. That was it.
Okay, this is Marcy. I just, I wondered if anybody else felt this way. After I was done with the ranking and I saw that it was Whiteman I felt like the other, Moore Brugging, is that what it was? they were actually my second choice, and only because Whiteman, there was a lot they didn't answer, in my opinion, and I could be wrong. And they're really big and they have a lot of projects. So I just wanted to make that comment. I'm perfectly happy with both, but I just wondered if anybody else had that same result. And we were told ahead of time that that might happen. Does anybody else
Well,
have? Go ahead.
hey, Brenda, my ranking was about like yours, I think, but it was so close, like 2/10 of a percentage point apart that it really doesn't bother me that much if we pick Whiteman instead of more Brookings, but I agree with you.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. Kathy, who's not with us today, also wanted it on the record that that she thought all four firms were great and could likely do the job. And she had similar feelings to you, Brenda, that she was surprised how the ranking came out, and that what she initially thought in the beginning was what she ended up with for choice two. So to Ken's point, I think it was just really close with that second and third. And, it seems like all of these firms, to Kathy's point, could really are capable of doing the job. And we've just done the best that we could to try to make the best choice. I do think that Marcia's ranking system will help us when we interview the firms. I think it really gets us focused on what we think is important. It's got us looking at project managers and community outreach. And even though it was some extra homework, I do think that it puts us in a good headspace for next week. So appreciative to Marcia. Great.
Thank you, Marcia.
Yep.
So
Holly, can you refresh my memory? Who motioned and who seconded?
I made a motion and I think
Okay.
Ken was my second.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
Okay. And now, can I call for a vote now?
Well,
Okay.
any other thoughts,
Thank you.
John
Ken.
or Richard?
Anybody else want to weigh in?
I would just add that, kind of depends. I mean, we have these weights, but, in your own mind, you have to categorize it. And I thought Moore had a lot of experience, but I kind of penalized them because most of it was older.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's right or wrong. Whereas Whiteman's, probably had less experience, but it was all in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's one of those intangible things that, you bring in our own biases or whatever, but I think my rankings probably were a little higher towards Whiteman for that reason.
Well, you guys did a lot of research coming into this, so I was just curious on how you felt about the rankings.
Yeah, Whiteman was recommended as well, highly recommended. Not that the others weren't, but I think they all, as someone has already said, can do the job and all come recommended, and it's actually pretty close.
So
Yeah,
you
I'd
felt,
say, oops, sorry, Holly, go ahead.
no, go ahead, Richard.
I was just going to echo what John said, that, I kind of had the same feeling. They were close. There are differences. One is bigger, as was noted, and one seemed to have more recent experience, as John just noted. So, it just depends on which factors are more important to you. But it seems like either one would be qualified.
Okay. Good question. It sounds like both of you are in agreement with the rankings then, with how we ended up.
Yes, I am.
All right. Anybody else have any thoughts before we move on to a vote? All right, let's do this. Let's have a vote.
Leo,
Yes.
Trester,
Yes.
Marcy,
Yes.
Osmond,
Yes.
Jerry Donovan,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes.
Richard Donovan.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Next steps, like we said, we're gonna try to interview 2 engineering firms for our regularly scheduled meeting next week. I already have received some questions from a committee member, and I would just ask if anyone has any questions to go ahead and send them to Richard Donovan in advance, and the guys will collect them. But the guys would, Richard and John would also ask that the committee ask questions of the firms also. So hang on to your questions and ask them in the meeting. But I think it will help to just collect a list. Brenda?
Yes. Can I mention something to add to next steps?
Yes.
Aside from that, last meeting, we talked about the interlocal agreement. And
Mhm.
I was wondering if we, rather than, I think you had mentioned that Ryan was working with your lawyer, but you know what I'd like to see is that the 3 managers work together. There was one that was drawn up at a certain point by one person, one of the 3 entities, and it didn't go so well. So I don't know what you think of that idea, but I was wondering if we could do something like that.
I think that's a great idea.
Madam Chair, if I could.
Yes, Ryan, please.
Yeah, the city managers have discussed doing just that, and we would be happy to work together as a team and take the lead. And we recognize that this is a priority as well, and we need to get this in front of our respective elected officials, and we plan to do so.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would just say that I recognize that the interlocal agreement is very important, and I understand that we're trying to hire engineers and trying to do the interlocal agreement, and there is some, blowback about doing one, the chicken or the egg, and I just want to recognize that and assure you that we are working on the interlocal agreement, and we will have that to everyone. So we're just trying to stick to the timeline that gives us, we need to have I believe our grant application somewhere in between June and October. So we are really trying to keep on track. And none of us, with the exception of Ryan, has ever done this before. Ryan was building a beach-to-beach trail in Egg Harbor that even went on private property. So he also got the largest TAP grant in the state of Wisconsin. So glad he's here, and just bear with us, bear with me as we work this out. I appreciate your patience, and I appreciate everybody's feedback because you're always very candid and it's very helpful. So with
Madam
that,
Chair,
yes, Ken.
if I could just step back a minute to the interviews next week.
Mhm.
I was a little distracted here when you talked about how we're going to assemble the questions and so on. I was just going to say, I think we went through a great process when we engaged our new city manager, where the recruiter really had designed a set of questions that for sure we're going to ask. And I don't think we have to be totally scripted, but I think we want to make sure that, there might be 5, 6, 10 questions that we want to ask, and not have everybody pepper them in some different order. So I'm not sure how to best organize that. And I'm not saying the rest of the group shouldn't be able to ask other questions, but just some structure so that we cover the same ground with both firms. Does that make sense?
And that's a great idea, because when we did that for our city manager search, it was wonderful. And what Ken's saying is we basically had a format in advance so that we got all of our major questions answered. So maybe what we could do, I don't know how this works with open meetings act, Ryan, you'll have to help me. Is it possible that, maybe myself and Ken and John and Richard could go back and forth on these questions a little bit to format them?
Yes. Excuse me while I stutter here a little bit and think this through. I
Well,
think that,
we wouldn't be a quorum, right?
yeah, that's the concern. I would select, perhaps two who would be willing to collect the questions. And maybe Richard and John are in the best position to do that. And then they will have their baseline questions, like the top 10 question or the consistent 10 questions that they'll ask both firms. And then you can pepper them after that. But you would have to trust that Richard and John could get that organized and help you out. I think that would be the best way, in my opinion.
If they would do that, I think that'd be great.
And I didn't mean to volunteer you, Richard and John, but I did.
That's all right.
Dan, did you have your hand up?
I was just going to make a comment about the interlocal agreement that, we have selected engineer candidates that have experience in multi-jurisdictional circumstances that hopefully they'll bring something to the table to help with that. And then just as a general comment, we found in our experience with interviewing these engineers that you almost always learn something. I mean, whether you hire the people or not, just a conversation with them and their experiences bring something to the table. And that's, part of the opportunity here of doing more than one engineer is that, we can learn from them. And, I think even if it's a unique question, maybe we don't, come into the meeting with that comes up, it's an opportunity for us all to learn from these engineers.
Sure.
Yeah. And there's also, the personal aspect, because sometimes I don't know if Marcia said this to me, but there, once, or if Richard and John said this, but once you're interfacing with that firm, you can see if there's a natural chemistry or maybe if it just seems like it's a better fit. Definitely the human factor, the human Zoom factor may show up somehow. So.
Yeah, Holly, couple of things.
Yes.
One is, happy to organize the questions. We already have an outline of questions which we borrowed from a previous set of interviews that the Friends did. And we've started to adapt that to this particular exercise. And welcome, any additional questions that committee members have. And we can then circulate that in advance of next week so everybody kind of has the script, so to speak. Second thing is, I think based on the vote today, I should go ahead and notify the 4 firms, let the 2 finalists know that we'll be next Friday, and then let the 2 know, fortunately, they didn't make the cut. Is that correct?
Yes, I think that's that would be appropriate. If you wouldn't mind to go ahead and do that.
And then just last thing is, we need to let the firms know what we want from them at the interviews. And we had a little discussion with Holly the other day about this. One approach is to give each firm 10 minutes or so to tell us why we should hire them, so to speak, not repeat what's in their proposals, because we've all read those, but ask, give them a little chance to summarize why they think they are the best fit for this job. And then we proceed to the questions, and just give me some idea what to tell them. Do you want to ask them to allot a half hour, 45 minutes, an hour? What would the committee think is appropriate?
Well, if I could weigh in, Richard, I like the idea of giving them each 10 minutes to present, but not repeat what they've already given us necessarily. And then give them a discussion period of 20 minutes each. So we have 2 half-hour segments, and we can always go a bit longer if warranted.
I like that, Ken. That seems reasonable. I mean, we have spent a lot of time with the proposal, let's be honest.
Sure.
Marcia, did you have any thoughts on this process?
No, I mean, I'm assuming that they're gonna, the key thing is that you're meeting the team. So I'm assuming that the person that's gonna be the project leader will be on the Zoom call. Cause that's the critical piece is, or a piece of it is, you were right, the interaction between, you guys and the firm that you select. So that would be important. And then, yeah, I mean, 10 to 15 minutes of, presentation on their part and, 20 to 30 minutes of questions should do it. And I do agree with, the thought of having a set of, my dog's barking, sorry, a set of questions that you want to ask. And then questions, additional questions will just fall out from the discussion.
Okay, great. That all sounds good. I think we're on track then. Okay, any other discussion? All right. If that's it, then I'm going to ask for public comments at this time, which could be about any topic, not just focused on today's agenda. Are there any members of the public that would like to comment? Nope. Okay. Do any members have closing comments at this time? Nope. All right. I just want to thank everybody for making the time to use Marcia's tool, review the engineering proposals, and meet today. Thank you. It's keeping us moving. And if nobody else has anything to add, I think I can ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
And we have a second. Brenda, did you get that?
I got that. Ken seconded. Who moved?
I think it was Richard.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Okay.
It helps when I can see who's doing it.
And then Madam Clerk, may we have a roll call?
Yes, Richard Donovan,
Yes.
Trester,
Yes.
Marcy,
Yes.
Osmond,
Yes.
Jerry Donovan,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes.
and Leo.
Do you want to come in? I'll be here all afternoon.
Thanks, everybody. Have a
Thank
great
you.
Thanks,
Thank
Holly.
you.
Great
Thank
job.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.